Alright, so this is Sarah. So this is your front page, Sarah. Great. And can you just tell me what you decided to select as the major competency you felt on this first page?
For the competency, I used the my meta thinking skills.
Yeah, so that was from the developing growth mindset, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
For the document on the connecting to the PhD curriculum.
Yeah.
And basically just having to work with a partner and expand my knowledge of things, and of what other people think.
Right.
And do it together.
So give us an example. What really shifted your thinking in the class?
A lot of the stuff you're talking about like making sure we connect it back to the curriculum every time.
Yeah.
So we looked at the big ideas and make sure we did things that linked back to those big ideas.
Can you give me an idea? What was a big idea that you think you did in that badminton unit?
It was making sure people enjoy physical activity, I think we wrote.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, and success and enjoyment of physical activity. We really wanted to make sure people had success with the small games and changing court sizes based on winning or losing, and making sure they actually had fun in physical activity.
Right.
Because my passion is having kids live lifelong active and healthy lifestyles. Right. So I really want them to enjoy physical activity so they could carry it on.
So when you define for me fun, because you just called fun in a certain way, that it's not fun like party fun, but fun in what's the way that fun. Because you said you changed the court structure because what did that do?
I don't know.
As you played a game and you won points, then it became more difficult for you, right? The court got bigger.
Yeah, so it's challenging, but it's they're still enjoying it because it's challenging and they're still finding success in it.
Right. So what you're finding there, so that's a particular type of fun. It's fun not at someone else's expense. It's fun because they've created something that's challenging for me.
Yeah.
And I can overcome that or not, and then I can overcome that or not, and it's that back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to have the opportunity to succeed.
Yes.
At some point.
Yeah, definitely.
Good, right? And so you felt you were at the sort of just moving to proficient, right?
Yeah,
moving
into being proficient.
And so the meta thinking part was you're thinking about how that was important. So what I was saying to you down here, did you read my feedback?
I did.
What do you think I was getting at there?
Insects. More examples of what?
Well, the meta part is thinking about your thinking,
mm-hmm.
right? So that is a learning theory. So in what way do you think you started to do that, and then how did you get your kids starting to do that? What were they starting to think about in the badminton?
They were thinking about different concepts of ideas of if someone has a big court, where can you hit the bird to have success against an opponent like that?
And that's different to teaching a skill.
Yeah.
Because the purpose of the skill is to hit to that space, right?
Yeah.
So when you know you can't hit to a space, then you can teach a skill.
Right. See
that flip that you started to do because you made the environment purposeful.
Mm-hmm.
So I should put some learning theories down there for you. And you're hitting the inactivism and the social constructivism because you're starting to create a context that then causes them to learn rather than I'm going to program you with how to play badminton.
Yeah.
And if you try to do that with some of those kids, they never would have gone anywhere.
No. Yeah.
Right, and so that was a meta skill that you shifted what you probably would have done to what you started to do based on what you're learning in my class, and that's the meta part. And you're starting to figure out why, and it connects back to the new curriculum.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's great, yeah. I would say you're moving into that proficient because you're starting to think about your practice in different ways to help kids achieve what you want them to do. You navigate. Come on. Page 2. Okay, so on this one
I chose my.
It's very noisy. It's the opposite thing.
Yeah, I know. I chose my planning skills for this one for the student activity, the learning sequence for students.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize it was so interesting to me to you actually have to plan how you're going to get students to achieve the CAPS learning domains, and so. Yeah, it was cool you had to plan to to see how you were going to make that happen and how they were going to learn that.
So how would you describe, because you shifted, right? Because at the beginning you just wanted to do something, right? To play a game.
Yeah.
And then you started to figure out there was more to it than that, right? Because these started to become quite focused. You were looking for things.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, it was your class with all the teaching styles and how to better connect to each domain and how to do that.
Yeah, and I said to think in this one later on, I said it was really cool how you started to really embrace the teaching styles as a way of causing CAPS through the vehicle of badminton, outdoor ed, or whatever it is, but really it's CAPS, and this is an excuse to teach CAPS, and by doing that you're learning an activity at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. I was never taught that before in school. Like in school we just did a unit and they would just teach us a skill and then play a game, and that was all it was.
Which in Moston's terms was, command practice at most.
Yeah, so it's cool to see all different styles and how you could like individualize it.
And isn't it a bit scary that's been around for 50 years?
Yeah.
And it seems so obvious when you start using it, yet it hasn't necessarily been taken up by all teachers. Do you see? I mean, Moston teacher styles, I found when I went into university and went back and across, people were very impressed that phys ed had this way of doing things, because other subject areas haven't quite articulated it. They all do now in some similar ways to this, but it was very interesting that phys ed had got something sort of ahead of the field. And it links back to a lot of the theories around how we learn, which is then, another part of what you've done in the course when you looked at those teaching models. So in your reflection here, where did you think you were?
Emerging and moving into developing, because at the beginning I definitely don't think I was doing that very good, but
I also think, and I wasn't sure this is really cool because this is what they're going to do in the PDP when you go on practicum. By doing this, you became way more aware of it, and that's what you wrote down here. That was like an audit of you systematically developing your teaching around CAPS.
Yeah.
Which I said that.
Yeah, for sure.
Your description was pretty much, you're in that, and now proficient is that you start using that over time and combining and then doing assessment, which you started to dabble with as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Hang on. Sorry. Do drive.
And for this one?
This one's cool. I like this one because it pops, this page. Gotta tell you, if you go for an interview, get to this page quickly because they go, wow. The planning you've done, the reflection you've done, right? The detail is actually apparent without me reading. Right? Because it comes over, it's systematic, it's organized. I can eyeball this very quickly and go, wow, you're a thoughtful planner. You reflect well. Yeah? So just so you know, when you show this one, anyone who's like a principal or a teacher and a mentor teacher, that's what they want to see on a practicum from their student teachers in their school, because I know you are learning.
Right.
Right? Yes, so scan down.
This one I did my
pedagogical skills?
Yeah. For my lesson number 4, planning document.
Yeah.
And basically it was focusing on like my many use of teaching styles in this one. Like I was really, in this lesson, I was really trying to like hit a lot of them to be able to like make it individual for every person so that they could learn like in different ways and different things. Like we did reciprocal style, practice style, some cooperative learning stuff, and I don't know, I just...
and you're actually labeling it, and then you draw again, and also I can see the cues. Like, I mean, if you looked at your first lesson compared to this lesson...
Yeah, there's a big difference.
I know, that's great. Yeah. That's the growth as an instructor. That's the growth I want to see. And that you and Taylor actually said about his 4th lesson how he really started to appreciate planning.
Yeah. For this one, I said I think I was in, where did I say I was? Developing and moving into being proficient.
Right.
Because I incorporated a lot of different teaching styles, and I was more like aware of actually incorporating them.
Yeah.
Instead of my first lesson, I don't think we really did a lot. We mostly did command and practice stuff for the first lesson.
And you're just pleased to set up the environment.
Yeah.
Right? And the kids were quite happy because they're just right?
Yeah.
And then they couldn't catch a koosh ball, so then you're like, holy crap, they can't catch a koosh. But that was when you start to realise what you're working with, right?
Yeah.
But by the end, they were very different, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in relation to are you moving forward, what do you think's your goal in this one?
My goal was to, be further into proficient and extending, but I really want to just actually be really aware and keep using the different teaching styles.
Right,
when I
yes.
teach.
Yeah, and start to see how that affects learning. And then, as you see, I've talked about when you combine teaching styles and then you start doing a program, you start getting those instructional models. And then you start to do something because these styles are interacting with each other. They create something else that, if you do over time, really leads to student independence or students learning things that aren't just a sport. Right?
Yes.
That how to be in the community in that activity, or how to how to set up a club, or how to figure things out that are very complex, how to take responsibility for the learning of your peers.
Yeah.
The cooperative learning one is really very much like the Littlewood principles, and my job is to help them learn.
Yeah.
Right? And it really shifts the notion of how we can create a community that's healthy. Yeah. So that's very cool. So your goal moving forward then is probably, and you get my class next term, is I'll do sports ed and I'll do tactical models with you, and then come back to some of these other instruction models as well, because they could be potential extension assignments or things that you could say, okay, if I took this on, that's the way you can play around, because I was talking the same with Harry. Take this up, think about it over Christmas, because then you could come in, I'm teaching you, but then you could also pull something else out. If you have time, but then use that extension to develop your own learning. Because what you're doing here is you're planning the sort of teaching persona that you're developing from these courses going into the PDP program. So this is a very, very good page because of what that represents and the feedback you got from an observer at the end as well. That was an email, right? She typed up her feedback for you. About this page.
It was about the assessment skills. And I read your comment and I agree with what you said about how I'm developing, because I only did it one time. And I agree with that. I will change it, I just haven't had time.
And put a little explanation on top here.
Oh, an explanation. Yeah, I wrote all the titles, but yes, I will do.
Just to add a little thing. So if someone comes to read it, or if you happen to send it, because you might have sent this to somebody to show what you can do, just explain it. Okay. Because then this really looks cool. Right? Anyone look at that, you can see satisfaction levels with the kids, very high, but you can see their writing skills.
Yeah, I can.
Right? And the contrast in that, right, just tells you quite a bit as well.
Yeah, lots of people say they like doing stuff with their team or getting points for their teams and stuff like that, which was cool to see.
Cool, right? Because you were starting to draw on a sports ed type model.
Yeah.
And that age group is very good for doing teams.
Yeah.
Middle school love affiliation and identifying with somebody, right?
Yeah.
So carry on with this one.
Oh, yeah,
so what did you learn from the assessment you did with the kids?
I learned that, well, it's just important to get feedback from the people who are actually taking your class for what they think and what they feel and stuff like that. Like it was, Will win at least one game. Like we could have maybe done a better job at like making sure he had success.
Right.
So it's good to know that stuff.
But he still had up here, right? He understood the concepts, right?
Yeah.
So that's good. Like he identified with that, right?
He learned stuff, but
Yeah. So Will was a little tall kid that was.
The blonde hair tall kid, yeah.
He had something not quite.
Yeah.
Timing, right? So I was trying to think, looking at him, he might need something else to catch with, because he was tending to, right? And he would do it at the last minute. So, duck it. So, something that, or maybe on a cone, they just reaches for the catch. But you have to play around with that, right? To help him track the object, because he just wasn't tracking it until it was almost there, and then he'd miss it.
Yeah. But I wasn't really thinking about it, but it would have been cool to do more assessment stuff throughout the lessons, like with the Google Forms and stuff like that. But next time I will definitely do that.
Perfect for 432?
Yeah.
Because any school you go into, they're all using Google Classroom.
Yeah.
And the teachers will be right on, and they not many people know about doc appender and the whole notion of repeated measure. So if you pull that in, that goes, whoa, you can do that, and it does it for you. I should send you all of yours actually, because it's all there throughout the whole term. Every time you did the Google Forms, there's a record of your responses. Yeah, I should send it to everybody. I was going to use it in the last class, but I changed it around. But it is interesting just to map your own learning.
Yeah, that's actually really cool.
It's like a mini portfolio, but just evidence that you can then reflect on, because you can look at that and go, okay, so how have I learned? Because all your quizzes are there.
Yeah, that would be cool to see, and that would be cool for kids to be able to visually see like where they're at and where they started.
Yeah, and look at how much change has happened in basically 3 months.
Yeah.
So on this one, change it slightly, but then you've got the idea.
Yeah, and I want to use it in future.
That's perfect, and the perfect idea is that you've realised the importance of bringing students into the assessment process, because the more they take control of their assessment, less it's about a grade, because they don't need a grade now. They're looking at their own personal progress, and that's what starts to get valued. And all the teachers I've been working with in the research project now, that's every kid is setting personal goals. They're not really interested in what this person's doing, other than what their personal goals are, because they're not all doing the same thing.
Right.
So it's like, I'm moving in, right? So they're all moving across the whole landscape of learning potential, not racing down a track trying to beat each other, which is what grading does.
Yeah. Exactly.
And in physics, that makes no freaking sense. Because, activity-wise, growth and development-wise, aspirations, motivations, things you come in with are all so diverse that why would you compare the best basketball player, everybody knows the best basketball, to the beginning basketball player and give them a grade? Yeah, well, we know that. What's the point of doing that, right? So it's like, how do you move that forward in a different way?
Yeah.
So that's if you link this back to your first one you talked about, or second one you talked about the caps.
Yeah.
You're starting to diversify how you value people's learning.
Right.
So you could get, if you have to have a grade, you can have different ways of getting a high mark. Yeah. But honestly, I don't think we need a grade in PE.
No.
Because which parent looks at the grade in PE?
I know.
Right? They want to know their kids enjoying it, like you said, happy, feeling challenged, socially engaged, wants to pursue it more. If their kid's doing that, they think phys ed's fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's what we should aim our curriculum towards. Great. So, it's great. My last few questions. So what do we think were the highlights of the course?
Oh, definitely learning about the teaching styles. Like that just broadened my mind because I did not have that.
And you got the book.
Yes.
Which is really good.
Yeah. So that was one of the highlights for sure.
And then probably being able to apply it with the kids.
Yeah.
So you could actually experiment with it. Because even when I did it, it was fun, but it's more when you start to do it, you start to realise, oh, wait a minute. There's way more to it than just, I want to do this teaching stuff. Yeah. Cool. What would you like to develop more in the 350 in the future? If there's something.
The class?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I really liked how, we didn't know it, but when you first taught us a few classes, like some activities, you were using the teaching styles before we even knew. Like, that was so cool. I don't know if I would change anything. I liked it.
Well, thank you. That's good. Yeah. And this thing, because teaching styles are more natural to me now.
Yeah.
But it was good that then afterwards you could unpack. And that was really good on the forum that people went back and went, oh, when we did this, I realised, right? That was cool for me to read, right? Because then they're reading the book text and they're reading their own experience. That's great. So any last comments about the course or your thinking going forward?
I just hope to bring this knowledge with me and use lots of teaching styles.
Great. That's it. Let's just make sure.